Hello, this is Mrs. McDermott from Central Middle School in Evergreen Park, and I'll be interviewing her. She's been teaching for about 6 years. So let's just begin with what inspired you to teach.
Well, I always wanted to be a teacher. When I was little, we used to play school at home, and my mom would take me to the teacher store, and I would get a grade book, and I would get mad when my friends would want to be like the bad kids, and I loved grading papers. So it was just something that just was a natural progression for me.
Okay, so we'll be talking a little bit about classroom management. So how do you teach classroom procedures in the beginning of the year?
So the first couple of days of school in my classroom, I explicitly teach the procedures on the first or second day, the rules and the procedures, and go through them in detail. And then usually, every day for the next week or two, we review them just as they're doing them. And then if there are procedures that don't happen every day, just kind of asking and reminding and reinforcing the behaviors.
Okay. Can you explain the structure or layout of a typical day in your classroom, like specific rules or routines you have for your students?
So when my students come in, they know exactly what they're supposed to do. They have a journal that's projected on the board, and they know that they come in and they get started on that right away. And then while they're working on the journal, that gives me the opportunity to check in with students who are absent or who have to talk to me or who have missing work. And then we get the ball rolling on just the general, whatever the lesson for the day is.
Okay. In what ways do you equally distribute your time with each student?
It depends on the sort of activity, but I guess even in answering that is I use a variety of different instructional activities. So sometimes if it's whole group instruction, I just make sure that I am constantly on the move and observing what all the kids are doing. In small groups, I check in with each group, or if I'm doing guided reading, I'm giving one group more instruction, obviously, than the others. But trying to just be cognizant that no one's just sitting and playing games in the corner.
Yeah. Okay. How do you address discipline issues in your classroom?
So that's one of the procedures that is explicitly taught in my classroom at the beginning of the school year. So I have the big 3 rules, and they're pretty encompassing. But if those rules are broken or there's behavior that's unsavory, the consequences are just laid out. It's a warning, it's a phone call home, it's a referral, and it's a detention. Just kind of following the behavior policy of the school
that you started in the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. What are your views on rewarding students? What do you do in your classroom to reward students?
So built into kind of the behavior plan in my classroom, I use a Hogwarts House Cup points, and so positive behaviors earn them points. For example, we do silent reading on Wednesdays. If everybody in the class has their SSR book without having to go to their lockers or anything like that, they get 5 points. If everyone has their homework, they get 5 points. And then if they get up to 60 points by the end of the month, they get a reward. It could be 20 minutes of a movie, or they like snacks, or switching their seats for a day. But especially in middle school, it's really important that they still need those extrinsic rewards to incentivize the behavior.
To keep them engaged in the
Mm-hmm.
material. Okay, do you use any technology for teaching?
I use a lot of technology. All my students have Chromebooks, so
okay, sorry.
yeah, it's still going. All of my students have Chromebooks, so most of what they do utilizes that technology. So, for example, when they come and they do their journal, it's on Google Docs. I use instructional tools such as Google Classroom, Kahoot, quizzes, Quizlet.
I just learned about Kahoot.
Did you?
It's really exciting.
The kids love it. And speaking of rewards, they have the top 5 leaderboard. I only do the top 3 though. And when they win, depending on if we're just reviewing just regular, day to day, they get a prize, or they can get extra credit on the
Tests
quiz that's
and
coming
quiz.
up. Yeah, exactly.
They get really into it.
They love it.
I know. I did. We had it in one of our college courses, and we were all competitive and so excited.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Do you use anything else?
Yes. I use BlendSpace. I use Edpuzzle. Those are the ones I probably use the most often.
Yeah. Okay. How do you motivate parents to become involved in the classroom and in their child's education?
It's a little bit more difficult in middle school because a lot of parents, as they should, are kind of putting more responsibility on the students. But I do try and at least like once a week send home a couple shout outs with students. So if someone did really well on something, or they've been participating, or they've been, working so hard to bring their grade up, stuff like that, just as kind of, positive reminders for the parents.
Do they stay involved, or do you have some parents that really are not that involved?
Yeah, there's always parents that aren't
Yeah.
really involved.
Okay, as an experienced teacher, what would you say is the most important part of classroom management?
Consistency and just maintaining, what your rules and what your expectations are and sticking to them and sticking to the consequences. If you're not seeing the behaviors that you want, and then when you do, rewarding them. So that the kids know that you recognize that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Do you have any advice for my future years as student teaching?
Just honestly, just like being consistent. Like my first year teaching, I would like pretend I didn't hear something, and that was a bad route to take because then it just kind of snowballs. And just consistency is really the most important thing.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Anytime.